Hello YouTube and welcome to Full Dottle, a channel dedicated to tamping topics such as pipes, tobacco, lore, and more. I am your host, the Bearded Briarman, and without further ado, let's get lit. Welcome back everybody, and on this episode of Full Dottle, I'm going to be giving just a simple rant. Some things that have been going on at my house that have got me a bit flustered. But first, a little housekeeping. I'm smoking my Missouri Meerschaum Country Gentleman, and in it I have got some Solani Silver Flake. I've been living at this house for approximately 3 years. And I haven't had any issues. Neighbors have been great. One side of me over here is a duplex that hasn't been lived in for I don't know how long. If I had to guess from looking at it, I'd say it's probably been condemned. So I haven't had any issues on that side for sure. I am a little concerned that eventually that they're going to rebuild it or do whatever they have to do as far as renovations to make it livable, and then who knows what I'll get then. Hopefully I'll have enough money saved by then that I'll have a privacy fence built on that side. On the other side of me, there's quite a bit of space between me and the neighbors over on that side. I'm talking probably 2 acres between where my property line ends and the house that is inhabited on that side. Around me, for the most part, across the street in front of me are some duplexes, and I have never had anybody live there that I would consider to be a problem. When I say a problem, I'm talking about drug activity, loud music, just a nuisance in the neighborhood, if I said that correctly. Anyway, haven't had any issues so far. But the other day, my neighbors on this side of me had the people that live there now is a young couple, and the actual owners of the house is their grandparents, or the gentleman's grandparents. The other day, let me back up. The people that live there, the young couple, haven't had any issues out of them at all. They've lived there for a little over a year now, and up until just a month ago or so, I had never had any conversation or even met them. And then I saw that they were out in the yard. They had a young puppy that they were playing with and stuff. And so what I did, I ordered a bunch of a book on dog training, ordered some natural freeze-dried liver dog treats and some dog toys, and I had it delivered over there with a letter that explained, you know, I'm a veteran of foreign wars. I suffer from PTSD, and I'm not a big people person, so I apologize that I have never come and introduced myself, but that's who I am, and just want you guys to know that I see you over there with your puppy. I think it's awesome, and wanted to help out a little bit. So no issues with them. The gentleman finally came and introduced himself as I was mowing the yard. He was weed eating his yard, and came over and talked to me, and we hit it off. He's a great guy, and his wife works at one of the print shops around here. A very awesome couple. But his lawnmower broke. He had a small riding lawnmower that he did this property, and I mean, it's a pretty large property, and that riding lawnmower just didn't hold up to it and broke down. Well, the other day his grandfather came to mow the property. And his grandfather looks to be one of those kind of a grumpy feller. And as he was mowing the yard, I didn't watch him do it. I was out in the front yard with my daughter. We were playing, and then in the house playing. So I really wasn't paying attention. Didn't really care. I mean, we've never had issues, so I had no reason to sit and watch him mow the yard. But after he got done, and when I went into the backyard to let Marcus out, I generally don't let Marcus out when they're mowing the yard because he barks at him, and I wouldn't want that if I were mowing the yard, so I keep him inside. So after the older gentleman was done mowing the yard and had moved on, I went out, let Marcus out, and I was just out in the yard walking around, and I noticed that the older gentleman had picked up some pine cones from his yard and throw them over into my yard. Now I have 2 pine trees that border both sides of my house, and they are a pain in the butt. I understand that. This year alone, I picked up almost 30 bags of yard waste. 26 of those bags were just from the fall season and the winter season. These trees release their pine needles and also the pine cones. I picked up 26 bags alone in the spring season picking those up. The other bags that I have picked up have been off and on because I have squirrels that'll pull down the green cones trying to get to the pine nuts, and they'll spread them out in the yard. I pick those up. I also pick up other things that end up becoming yard waste, and I throw them away. Normally this wouldn't be an issue because I understand what a pain in the butt these trees can be. However, just over my left shoulder is a gum tree, and just off over here to my right is an ash tree. Both of them are on the neighbor's property and then come over onto my property. The limbs hang over. If these trees weren't here, I would simply ask for permission and get it in writing so that I had legal recourse if it ever happened to be needed. I would get permission to be on their property, and I would just pick up the pine cones myself, no big deal. But now I've got a situation. This guy is upset that the pine cones are falling onto his property, and now he wants to throw them back over in my yard. Like I said, generally I wouldn't care, but the gum tree behind me here drops hundreds of gumballs into my yard every single year. Not only that, but this ash tree over here, which is it's covering almost my entire yard and just starting to cover over the roof of my house. It poses a threat to my house because it's a very mature tree. It has many, I don't know what you would call them, but the base of the tree splits, and there's several bases to the tree. So it causes an issue with splitting and falling into my home or my shop over here. Not only that, but I am constantly picking up dead limbs that it leaves after a storm or whatever, not to mention the leaves and all that kind of stuff. It also has a very unique quality to it. This ash tree is infected with leaf curl aphids. You can look that up yourself and find out what it's all about. But those leaf curl aphids have a honeydew that they excrete, which we would call it urine or feces, but it's named honeydew. And there is a unique mushroom that grows only under green ash trees that are infected with leaf curl aphids. These mushrooms, they are the Boletinellus marulioides, and they grow only under that tree, and they are prolific in my yard because of that ash tree hanging over my yard. So I have a question for the YTPC. How would you handle it? I think I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to contact my attorney. Like I said, I have an attorney on tap all the time because I want to make sure that my butt is covered. But before I contact the city about the ordinances and stuff like that, because in the city that I live in, Siloam Springs, there is an ordinance on what is called waste producing trees. Technically, my pine tree is a waste producing tree, and I'm going to look into hiring a company to trim that tree back from their property line. Just the limbs that are covering their property, that way if any pine cones are falling, that'll be eliminated. But now, since he wants to make a big deal of the pine cones, I'm a little bit frustrated because up until this year, we've had no issues. And the way I assumed was whatever falls in his yard is his issue, whatever falls in my yard is my issue. But since he wants to make an issue and throw them back over, I'm not going to deal with that like that very often. I'm a little bit upset about it. So now I'm going to talk about these. The redneck in me wants to scoop up every gumball that falls into my yard, every limb that falls into my yard, and pick every mushroom that grows that is of the Boletonellus marulioides type, and throw them, either deliver them or throw them back over into his yard so that things will be tied up in a nice, neat, fair little bow. But I'm curious what you guys would do out there in the YTPC. How would you handle this situation? Do you think I'm overreacting to it? Do you think I should just pick up the pine cones and be done with it? Or are you like me and think, heck to the no, this guy's going to be upset with my pine cones? Well then fine, I'm going to be upset with the gumballs, the dead limbs, and the mushrooms. What do you guys think I should do about it? How would you guys handle the situation? Just curious, just a little rant from me. I generally like to be chill and I don't get involved in situations like this, but it just irritated me when he threw the pine cones back over into my yard, because you're going to be upset with 10 pine cones. I don't even think there was 10. I think there were 7 pine cones that had fallen in his yard. You're going to make a big deal and throw them back into my yard, 7 pine cones, when I have hundreds of gumballs that fall into my yard, not to mention the waste from this ash tree over here. I'm a little bit upset about it. I don't know if that comes through on video, but I'm just a little pissed about it. Haven't said anything to him because it's not the younger couple's issue. It's that grumpy old grandpa that came to mow the yard the other day. Anyway, how would you guys deal with it? Let me know down in the comments. Tell me what you think. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode of Full Dottle. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Tell me in the comments what you would do with this red wasp about to get me. Let me know what you'd do down in the comments, and until the next time we see each other, I bid you farewell and happy piping. Bye, everyone. Have you enlisted in the Full Dottle platoon yet? It's easy. Just click the subscribe button. Also, hit the bell icon to be notified as soon as I upload the next episode.